time to come.
Now then, welcome to the latest instalment of Red Army. I'm back. Sorry, I've been away. I'm sure you are thankful of that and not very thankful I have returned. But in true Dave Roberts style, we are late starting tonight, so blame me because I'm back and we're late. Rob, who's pressing the buttons over there somewhere, he decided to tell me that you were on time while I was away. Well, it's time to roll the titles, Rob. So now then, love starting the show with now then. Only on Teesside you get away with that. Two cracking guys sitting on the sofa to share the next 25, 30, 45 minutes. Can't be an hour because I've got to go and pick the tea up. We have got Fox in the box. How are you doing, mate?
Good evening, I'm very well, thank you. How was you?
You come straight from the gym?
I
or the
have
beach?
indeed. Oh, yeah, I'm going to say that. But
You've been swimming in Redgar?
Yes, I have. I've put the water back, people, if you want to go. Yes, I have, yeah. All of the above jokes, I am just going to go with.
Well, I've never seen anybody turn up with as skimpy a pair of shorts as you've had, mate, but there you go.
Okay, also known as a bikini.
His body is a temple, so he can get away with it. I couldn't. And Jacko from 12 Man, good to have you with us, mate.
How are you? I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, all is good, Good. It's been interesting, hasn't it? It's been interesting. Well, it's been an interesting 24 hours, because the great news, fellas, is Hayden Hackney's future is secured through until 2027. Let's start there, Jacko. How much does such a young, up-and-coming starlet turned regular, first-team regular, mean to us that we've been able to secure his place?
Well, you can go as far as saying superstar, couldn't you? He's one of us. He gives everything for the shirt. It's massive that he's signed up because he was touted up for, I think Arsenal was mentioned over the summer as well, and
Liverpool.
And Liverpool. So two massive clubs in the country, and we've got him signed down for another 4 years. And who better to learn under than Michael Carrick, the guy that's done everything in football. So and he's only going to get better. He's good now. Imagine what he's going to be like in a few years.
And is that the key, Foxy? Is it the fact that you've got young Hackney, who's a midfielder and obviously has got super talent, but he sees Michael Carrick, probably an ex-idol, if not an idol, somebody he's got so much respect for because he's done so much in midfield.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I think as a player as well, you must think, I'd love to work with certain people. And I think he's definitely up there. And I think, like you say, there's a level where he's going to probably have grown up watching him. But I mean, what a player to learn from. And I think as well, there's a lot of good sort of players. I mean, I know we're not talking about, I'm not going to digress, but...
You can.
Okay, well, even the likes of Woodgate, what a fantastic player he was. And you're just looking, as you've mentioned there, he's a local lad, and I always think we're always going to get... Are we always going to be a club that can keep... we can keep all of these stars when they get to a certain point? Or has he got a great... Has he got a great release clause in there that we're not going to mention because we don't want to give anybody any hints or anything anywhere? But he's going to grow with us now for the next 4 years, isn't he? I can't see him going anywhere. I think if Carrick stays and we have a plan like we look like we're going to have, we're going to get onto signings, people, in a minute. But it looks like we're a club now where we want to keep all the people and grow instead of trying to sell people off and bring a few players that have been around in to try and patch it up. So, yes, it's a great signing. And just another thing on that when he came into the team, he came into a position that probably you would have thought, I wouldn't change that. And yet he came in and made it his own, and he's made a difference. He's dynamic. So, yeah, I think it's a great little bit of business.
Couple of points there. You talk about if Carrick stays. There's one we can have a quick chew the fat over. But the fact Carrick's come out and said, absolutely delighted, because I want to make this kid as good a player as he can be. I mean, that suggests there's some longevity there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously some sort of plan with Hayden, isn't there? There's how he's going to develop him as a footballer. He's not just got Carrick, he's got the experience around him. I mean, Johnny Howson is invaluable. He's obviously going to have some sort of input in his career as well. He's signing of the year as well, hasn't he, Johnny? So there's another one to learn from, and Johnny's still learning from Carrick as well. It's like there's a big circle. There's a connection there between a lot of them, and that's what you need in a football club. if you feel connected, you get more results. And he's just, like I said, he's just going to get better and better as he gets older.
Especially in a small club, as you say, that energy, that kind of connection, that's what gives you that extra 10-20% on a Saturday, I always think, with people who just want to go that little bit further. And then I think the sum of the parts are end up being greater. And I think that, like you said there, he's a future captain, isn't he?
Yeah.
100%. And I'd like to see we get to that point with him. And I'd like to hope that the club can improve, that we can do something this season and maybe match his ambition, his ability. Because as you guys said there just before we came off, we went on air, that there's been some big hitters in for him. You know, obviously Arsenal have just signed Declan Rice. Would he have got a game straight away? Would he have got loaned straight back out? Probably. But, I mean, if that's the calibre of the guy, you know, Jurgen Klopp and Mikel Arteta looking at somebody like that, there's a lot of good midfielders about.
Are we talking a future England player?
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And he's versatile. He's a creator, but he gets about. He's got an engine on him, and I think these midfielders now, it's a new style of midfielder. We've always had someone with an engine room, someone with a bit of creativity. You've had to dictate a formation around that because you need a number 10, but he won't run, and then we have to. Well, he's got that. He's got everything. So for me, keep him fit and build a team around him.
And I mean, look, the interesting thing for me, and I know we'll talk about lack of signings so far. But the interesting thing for me, in that position, you know, there was a bit of a plan in place before Hackney's come in and smashed the plan. Because it was, Howson's in there, we've brought Barlasser in, who's probably going to be, was brought in to probably start phasing Johnny out because he was coming to the end of his career. Howson got a new lease of life. Barlasser hasn't been able to nail his place.
That's a good point also, yeah.
And we've got Hackney who sits in there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one area of the field where we've got strength.
Go on, sorry.
No, that's it, isn't it? I mean, for me, that's the engine room of a team, the midfield. If you don't get the midfield right, everything around you crumbles really quickly. And we've got options in that position. And if Hayden's having a couple of games where, you know, a bit like the end of last season where it looked like he just needed a week to just obviously get himself back together again. We had Barlasser to come in. Obviously, Mowatt's now gone back to West Brom, but we had him to come in. You know, even Crooks can go in that position. People forget about Matty Crooks because obviously they see him up front, you know, heading on to Tuber as he did, or getting the goals he did at Old Trafford last year. But he still is a midfielder. He's not attacking. He's a midfielder. He can still do that job if he needs to.
It's funny because it seems as if a few seasons ago we were crying out for creative players, and now it seems as if we've got them in abundance, and fitting them in is the good side of it. But like we're talking about, I always just think if you've got an engine, then you I've always seen Boro in the past when we've had players that we've maybe had to carry. And even go back to a Traore, and I mean, I don't think that we carried Traore. I think he carried a lot of players, but we'd always find that players would not do a defensive job. So then you had to go, well, if I'm playing him there, I've got to make sure that everybody else is a bit more rigid. And I think now what we're getting is, even with Akpom, you know, he's a number 10, isn't he, and a number 9, and he's always deep, and he'll come deep and start stuff. And you think, well, you know, how many midfielder creative players have we got? Is it now a little bit more fluid where you don't need a specific 10, 9, 7, 6. You know, you've got players that can interlink and do different jobs. Total football, isn't it?
Mind you, the way we played last season, all right then, the way we played 2/3 of last season, the final 2/3 of last season, is more open, is more attacking, is getting the ball moving quicker. So maybe that does fit into that sort of pattern.
Fast play, and I think that's what he wants, and I think that's where you need to be now as a team. And I think if that's going to be our identity going forward, because we've always been a football team. We go back to Bruce Wheat, we were called the Babes, weren't we? Riox Babes, and you know, you go past that to Jack Charlton and things like that, where we played a lot of good football, and you know, it's probably teams in between that, but I think we've lost that dynamic for quite a while. It now seems to me as if the players are coming and players are here who are going to get a chance, who want to play a certain way, which it's exciting for me, that moving forward.
You look at all the players in the squad as well, they're all versatile. They're not stuck to one position, they can play in many positions. I mean, you can point at Riley McGree. Riley McGree can play that position, but he can also play on the left wing, he can also play behind the striker. He's got that in him to play 2 or 3 positions. Obviously, we know about House, he can go back into the back line.
And look at Paddy.
Where
hasn't he played?
Yeah.
I mean, Paddy McNair was signed as a midfielder.
Give him a pair of gloves, he'll go and go.
Exactly,
Yeah. We probably would. You know, there is that to it. But then again, what you get with that, as well as with Paddy McNair, which is a good point, is that he's an elder statesman now, and that kind of like you're talking about people learning off people, I think he's a good player to learn from as well. I think he's a very underrated player, Paddy McNair, because as you say, he can do a job in a lot of positions. I think there's a lot of championship clubs would snap your hand off for a Paddy McNair. And he's a bit of a leader. And leaders are things we'd lost for a while as well as creative players. Seems now we've just gone, boom, there you go. There's some leaders for you. There's some creative players. you know, I don't see a part of the pitch at the moment where we haven't got people who want to shout or people who want to get who want to get stuck in and kind of guide people. I think he's come into a team at the right time. I think if Hackney had come into a team maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we wouldn't get the best out of him and he'd be gone.
Well, I mean, we've touched on Carrick and the importance of Carrick in the decision yesterday for Hackney to stay with the Boro. Quick comment coming in from Ian, and get your comments in. I've got Facebook Live open in front of me. Ian says Michael Carrick has brought much needed stability to the team. Agree?
Fully agree. I mean, he's bought into the vision that the club's got. We saw with Wilder at the beginning of last season, if one person's out with that vision, the whole vision's gone. So he clicks in and he promotes it as well. He's very vocal about it. He's very vocal about giving the youngsters a chance. I mean, look at the end of last season, there was youngsters on the bench. You know, some were getting minutes on the pitch as well. And obviously that's shown now in giving Hackney, you know, the faith to give him a 4-year contract. You know, back in the day, 5-6 years ago, we were only giving him 2-year contracts, 3-year contracts. This is a long-term deal, and it shows the vision of the club going forward.
Which, again, when you mentioned Wilder there, I would not have thought in a million years that the Wilder situation would have ended up how it did.
No.
I was convinced that guy would do what Carrick's done. And when Carrick came in, I personally wasn't convinced. I thought, we're going for a name. This isn't the Brian Robson era anymore where you can just pick somebody that people go, wow, and then it works. And you can buy players in and tactics aren't important. Everything now is drilled and every tactic's important and everybody knows a job. It's about knowing your job. And what I've seen with Carrick more than anything else this season is a guy who really understands the game. And that may be a stupid comment for the level that he's played at and the manager that he's played under, but there's probably plenty of players
who've played at that level and
just don't have
manage.
that.
Yeah.
No. So I think what we've ended up with Carrick is a guy who's ambitious, a guy who's got talent, and a guy who can see talent as well.
You look at the coaches he's learnt under as well. He's learnt under Mourinho, he's learnt under Van Gaal. You know, the two massive names in world football that have won literally everything you can win in club football. He's learnt from them. He obviously took 2 games under, you know, at United, but you don't judge him from that. But he coached with Mourinho.
Yeah.
He coached with obviously Ryan Giggs as well. You know, players like that he's learnt from, and he's just getting better and better, and his knowledge is going to get better as the years go on as well, and it's going to help Boro go forward in the future. And
we've talked about this before, but briefly, Master Stroke bringing Woody back, because where's that ever happened before at a club?
Yeah.
Manager, player, and he's left, and then he don't just come back like that. We know
as
how
a
fickle.
number 2.
Yeah.
So credit to Woody
shows
for being
a
willing to do
massive
it.
amount from Woody, that is character, but I think that's been the link where, because everybody likes him, and anyone who says, you know, this, that, or the other about Johnny, they don't know him. And he's obviously a well-respected guy in football, and we know how good he was. But just to bring that back, because he could have had anyone as a number 2 there, couldn't he? He could have gone anywhere with anyone, and we'd have all probably gone, yeah, that works. Yeah. But to bring somebody in, and I just think the other thing with that with Carrick is, as you mentioned, is he's come into teams where he's been surrounded by Scholes and Ryan Giggs and David Beckhams and people where he's coming in.
And he's got people like Ferguson, you know, behind to
him.
guide. Yeah, absolutely.
So he knows what he knows what he's looking for and what he wants to do to tailor make that. And I think that now, where we are now after 6 months of last season with him, I don't know a pre-season where, I know we're going to get onto this, guys, but I don't know a pre-season where I've been this optimistic, even though it's going to be a hard league, where I've thought, you know what, when everybody touches the Riverside at the first game, everybody's buying into that. It'll be electric again. Normally we start a season with a little bit, sorry, shorts are too tight again, I do apologise. Yeah, we do normally start a season with lots of trepidation, lots of anticipation and kind of, will this work, will it, won't? It will this year. It's just whether we can have a big enough squad to consist with the teams that are going to be, well, as we'll mention, teams that have come down and the other teams maybe like a Birmingham this season who could be a dangerous team with a lot of money.
And you know what to say about small shorts?
Yes, they do. And you know
small
what?
Content.
It's all true.
Phil Batch, Crooks doesn't fit into Carrick's way. He's not a striker, so he'll be sold.
Who, Crooks is that?
Crooksy, yeah. What do you think about Crooksy? Because
he's had injuries. He's had a hernia forever, hasn't he?
He has, but you know, he was almost forever on the bench when he was available last season under Carrick. Is he somebody who just he doesn't fit into the plan, or what do you reckon?
I don't agree with that. I've got to admit, because I mean, yes he's tall, and yes he wins the ball in the air, and he's that sort of target man. Watch the ball at his feet as well.
Technical.
Some of the passing he makes, and some of the passes he made last season, he's got a bit about him. He's got a bit of technical brain with
Yeah.
him, and he's got, you know, something that Carrick will like. Because Carrick's a big fan of, you know,
Yeah.
getting the ball and explore. Like, I mean, you go back to that first video you saw of Carrick in training. He basically said, "Don't look at the 45 degree, open it to 60 degrees, and look a bit more around you." Even Johnny Howson thought, "Wow, that's opened my eyes because it opens the pitch up to you." That's the kind of football that Crooksy plays. He plays where he can look, he can see the passes. It's just not about heading the ball or just being the tall man up front. So he's still got a future in this club.
And let's not forget, he did come off the bench a couple of times
Make a
during the season. He made a difference, scored goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the best of him. You know, Jones is another one I don't think we've seen the best of. But we've seen it in patches, but I think there's a consistent player in there. But I think in football we forget that, like, when a player has an injury and they're operating at such a high level with players that who's competing with someone that hasn't got an injury, you know, you can see that little difference. But as you've just quite rightly said, the guy's technical. And I think Carrick will relish trying to find him a place or trying to fit him into that squad. And I think Crooks will react to that because he looks to me, whenever he's been in and out, he looks like somebody who doesn't spit his dummy out very often. He looks like he's probably someone that if you give him a will, and he'll find a way. And I just think that I can't see a player in that squad where I think, seems to be no bad apples in there that want to win. I don't think Carrick would let that happen. There doesn't seem to be anybody who could, because he could be one if he wanted to be, that could maybe bad vibes and this, that. And I just think he looks at every player, Carrick, and thinks, what can I do with you? Where can I get the... And I think it's a challenge. I don't think there's any, as you've said, Crooks can play up front. We've seen that now. But he can also play centre midfield, as you said, and he can make a difference there.
A couple of comments coming in from you. Let's get into them. Phil Batch. Where do you see the young lad signed from Man City play? Is he going to be a first teamer or is he an under-23s? In what position? I can't even pronounce his name.
No,
I'm not going to try.
I mean, is this one for the future? Is this one to drop straight in? What do we know about him? Anything?
He's rapid. He's very fast, and he's a forward, isn't he? He's not specifically aimed at. He's not a winger or a striker, or he's a forward, which I like because it means that he's obviously got a bit of. He can obviously maybe play in a few positions. I don't think he'll be a starter. I think, like you say, he's one for the future. I think he's one to bed in. And like I said, there's players there that didn't do anything last season that was all about them 2 seasons ago, like a Jones. Well, Jones is a talented player. It just all became about him, and everybody learned how to mark him.
But now what's come out with Jones, you know, he's had the mental health issues. Those problems he's had to fight and come through, which thankfully it looks like he has. So I'm sure Carrick's the sort of guy who will understand that. You know, he want to stick by him and he'll want to give him the chance to prove himself this season. Are we going to see a better Jones up and down the flank this season?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you could see something wasn't quite right when you know, obviously the extended period out of the team. Obviously, all the rumours came out. You know, he doesn't get on with him. Obviously, that interview he's done in the last few days, he's cleared everything up.
Yeah, you know, and brave to do it.
Yeah, it's very brave. He's, you know, it
shows the character of the guy, doesn't it?
Exactly, it shows his bottle. It shows, and he's also willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to give everything to this club because they've given me everything back.
Yeah.
They've stuck with me. I've had all these problems. I've had all these issues off the pitch, but the club hasn't just pushed me aside. They haven't said, you know, no, it's too late now. They've stuck with him, and he'll give it back. And the talent's there.
Absolutely, and if he can knock out some of the performances he was, especially in the cup.
Was it Luton? He came into the side against Luton.
Away,
and looked really hot again.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
thanks, Rob.
Yeah, that game at Kenilworth Road, didn't he? I mean, he was the reason that ball went. Was it to Cameron Archer for the goal?
Yeah.
He was behind.
Yeah.
That Crooks again. He was involved in that.
Yeah.
Just to point that out.
And I think he's somebody that he would. There's a lot of clubs that would snap him up. I think. Because there's raw talent there. Like you say, if he's doing what he's doing with issues, then what's he going to be like when he's 110% focused? He could be frightening.
Yeah. Ian's our Darlington fan who points out that Darlow have made five signings so far this summer, so they're ahead of the Boro. But he also says Carrick could save Middlesbrough money across the future by promoting younger players. But we have seen that in him. He's given Hackney his chance. You know, he's had another look at Jones. He's done that sort of stuff. Do you see Carrick as the guy who will put full faith in young players, or is he now looking at this thinking, we're touching distance away from the Premier League, we've got to go with experience? What are you expecting?
I think it's going to be a mix of both, hasn't it? He's got to have I think what you think he's learned from Fergie. Fergie did that very well. He brought in the youth with the
Built
experience,
teams, didn't he?
Yeah, and put them perfectly together, and obviously made the magic that he did at Old Trafford. And Carrick was part of that. So he's seen that, and you'll think I can try and produce that up in Teesside, up with us. And I think he'll just bring both together. I mean, like you've got the likes of, Kane Sykes is another one that's coming through. He's given the amount of deals you've seen come through as well in the news in the last few weeks of academy players getting their first pro contracts, and Carrick's the man stood behind him, whereas we all saw in years gone by it was Bowser and his big grin. Now it's Carrick, and he's the one that's saying I got him signed up. He's fully pledged into this new initiative that we've got, and say we've got obviously both skills, Howson coming towards the end, but then Hackney at the beginning. Bring them together. It'll work. It really will work.
I agree, and I think that he's at the perfect club for that. And I think that if this was just, he's obviously not just dabbling in a toy. He wants to be a really good manager, and I think that, obviously, why wouldn't you be doing it? But as stupid as a thing that is to say, but I think that it's not an experiment for him. There's clubs that he could have maybe gone to in a lower league and tried to experiment with things, and maybe if it didn't pay off, there wasn't that much press about it. Nobody's going to jump on it that much, and would that work? Would this work? But I think he's got a template in mind, as you've said, because he's learned from the best, and I think that Middlesbrough's the perfect club to try and feed young players in, but also balance it out. We want to go up. He's seen that we can, so I think it won't be just kind of. He's not just going to throw it to the wind, but I think that he will find a balance. If we look, the bottom line is it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're good enough, you're good enough.
Yeah.
And I think under Carrick, you can be good enough a lot quicker.
And he's got the balls, hasn't he, to stick by that if he sees a young player.
Shorts there.
Yeah, we are, mate. If he sees a player that he's got faith in and belief in, he's not afraid to dip him in those big games. And because there'll be some manager who go, I'm so close to being promoted here. Sorry, I can't give you the chance.
Can I have 5 minutes maybe when we're falling low?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, and he did it with Hackney straight away. This is the thing when I've talked to people about Carrick, and people have said, well, is it just a bit of luck, lads? And I think, well, luck you make yourself. It's effort, attitude and ability. And I think that for me, with Carrick, we didn't have a honeymoon period with him because he changed things straight away. So it wasn't as if he just came in and players went, oh, thank God it's you and not him. Yeah, I'll play well this week. He changed things instantly. So for me, it wasn't a honeymoon period. It was a fix, if that makes sense. And so I think that what he sees will continue. He also, again, slightly going off, he knows when to make a substitute. And I think as a manager, if you can be proactive, this is something Gareth Southgate suffered a lot with England, if you can be proactive instead of reactionary, and you can see the problem and fix it before it's about to happen, which is, I know he's not a tarot card reader, but, that's the sign of a good manager, preempting stuff. And he did that straight away. He came in, he went, Hackney, you're going to play for me there.
Do you know who I saw that last with? And this is going to make me sound really old. Well, I am. Malcolm Allison. When Big Mal was at the Boro, and after he finished at the Boro, I did a commentary with him for Century. We had Big Mal on, and we'd be at games, myself, Ali, God rest his soul, and Big Mal, and we'd be doing commentary, and Mal would suddenly chirp up with, we're weak down the left-hand side. That's a danger. And you can guarantee within 10 minutes, the opposition would go down the left-hand side, cross and score. Yeah. That's the last time I've seen somebody from a Boro position have that sort of reading and understanding of the game.
Well, that in itself, I think we better be careful what we're saying here, because we might be talking him up too much of him. Somebody might come in.
Yeah, he's crap.
Let's keep
him for the next 5 years. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you're completely right. And I think that's something in football that comes around now and again. Where you can everybody likes to think they're a manager, but then how many managers go through 100 clubs and never really improve them? Yeah. And they just seem to be there. They're in the way. They're the next in line. Whereas managers like that, like you say, who can actually create and change. Well, you could go anywhere with a manager like that with the right resources.
Absolutely. A couple of comments coming in. Timmy Leach, good to have you with us, Timmy. Let's have a big hats off for Jones coming out and telling us what he's been through. Well done to the lad, I say. Absolutely. Ian, good luck, Izzy. Thanks for that, Ian. The same, Ian. Every team needs a Crooks style of player.
Totally.
Going back to what we were having a discussion earlier on. There's one comment, well, I was going to say one comment, there's several comments. One subject that's pretty interesting, and it's repeating here, and that's the subject of goalkeeper. So Daniel Cheney, why aren't we looking to promote Roberts or Solbrain to the number one position? Roberts has stepped up before when needed. Interestingly, the same sort of comment from Ian Barron. Sol Bryn was good for Darlington when he was on loan. Should he be given his chance? What about the keeper situation? We're being linked with all and sundry at the moment.
Yeah, it's. I like that we've been linked with everyone, and there's no commitment from the club to say, well, yeah, we've had a look at him. He's kept his cards close to his chest. Yes, Bryn's got the experience now. Obviously, he had a really good season at Swindon last year. He came back with loads of plaudits, loads of good things said about him. They said they'd have him back in a heartbeat. But for me, it's about stepping up and stepping up. You can't just go from League Two to the Championship really quickly. I know some players have done that, and they've done that really successful. You don't want to push that on them. It's a lot of pressure coming to a club that's finished top 6 last season, pushing for promotion again. You need a commanding figure at the back. For me, I mean, look at Dimmy. You know, when Dimmy was in, you know, wasn't massively rated when he first came in, but look at the voice he had. Look at the command he had. He was a big figure, and he was brilliant. And that's the sort of play. That's for me. That's the sort of keeper you need.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course, can.
Do you think that if the club if it's set up right, as we've already discussed, and that belief's there and the ability's there, do you think that? And I hear what you're saying with the goalkeeper, because I think it's like having a striker. Like it's such an important part of the pitch.
Look what happened last year
Yeah,
with Tuba.
Completely.
You know. I recognised striker. He wasn't recognised at all. But anyway.
And then there you go, boom. And I, obviously, with a goalkeeper, we could argue this all day long. What's more important, a keeper or a striker? Obviously, they're going to score your goals more than a keeper will. But a keeper sees everything, keeps everyone in line, keeps everyone in check, blah, blah, blah. So you need that as a keeper. But what I'm saying is, do you think that if the belief's there and like the little bit with Hackney, you go and fly, you make your mistakes. It doesn't matter if you make a few. We'll cover you. We've got a great centre back, great defence in front of you that can, you know, we'll get you out of jail. And I think that isn't this the line now of where you find out how good somebody can be by dropping them in at the deep end when you know they've got the ability and going, there's the pressure. You're going to have to deal with it at some point. I could feed you into the game 6 months in. I could give you a cup run, blah, blah, blah. But I think we're at a point now where Stefan was good, but he improved. He didn't start well. And he improved and he improved and he improved. But I think the team as a whole improved. So I think, personally, it's a good time for him to come in. Because we're not... if we don't go up this season, are we really going to be that angry? Are we just going to... Depending on what other teams do and what we buy. But I don't know, who would you bring back? Randolph? You know, who's there out there that you could go...
Caldalo. But what concerns me about Caldalo is it's taken him an awful long time to make any decision.
Yeah.
So does he really want it?
No, and I think that's a good point. And I've never been him... He's good, but I would rather take a risk on a keeper who's got ability, who's our own, who's ready for a chance and go... Rather than go to somebody like that, you say, who's still... I don't know. Because at least what we're going to get with Bryn is he wants to play for the club and he wants to get him, you know, and that goes a long way. I think that homes in on people when the focus, if making mistakes in football is a given. But I think if you've got the right attitude to iron those mistakes out and you're not scared of making them, then all you're going to do is improve. And I think if everybody gets behind him, I don't. It's a tough one, isn't it?
Kofi's just made a comment. We need a permanent number one, not a keeper that's going to come in, do a job on loan for a year,
and then go,
and then move on. Where do you stand on the Carl Darlow experienced versus the Sol Bryns? The time has come.
I mean, you've got to find a balance, haven't you? I agree with what Foxy said. If you're good enough, you're old enough, and I fully get that. It's just with the goalkeeper position. It's very easy to drown in the pressure. It's because there's no hiding place. In midfield, in defence, you've got people around you.
And behind you.
Yeah.
In goal, you've got nothing. If you look at the mistakes that Stefan made last year, and I mean, look at early in the season, QPR. He made 3. I mean, at least 2 howlers, and he did, and he self-confessed it as well. And he had no hiding place.
But do you not think with him as well, though, because he come with a reputation as Manchester City's number 2 and a USA number 1, and that he's at Man City, so he must be. I think he came ready for a fall to a point, and I think that we saw he was a good keeper at the end of the season. We saw that he was starting to get to this player that obviously Man City signed. I know he's not. It's all gone with that now anyway, but. I get what you're totally saying. It's easy to drown, and it's easy just to lose your confidence and be gone in 10 minutes. But I also think that he grew into that a bit, Stefan, and people got on his case more, I think, because of what he'd come with. Whereas we don't expect that from Sol, I don't think.
Let's see.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I don't want.
he's going to drop 3 on his first game.
I don't want.
So you won't.
I don't want to happen to Sol what happened to Ainsley Pears.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Ainsley got dropped in under Woody. He's a promising keeper, and he showed that at Blackburn now. But he never got the time to show it at Boro. He never got time. End of the day, the fans want someone that's commanding at the back. So a commanding keeper, a voice. Ainsley didn't quite have that. He was growing into it, but he made a couple of mistakes that really did cost us. And all of a sudden, fans were on him.
Is there anyone
it's just not forgiving.
Is there anyone out there that you guys would like, who you could see, who's you know, if you said you're right, you can go and get him, who would it be? Is there anyone?
For me, the only one out there is a Carl Darlow type, where he knows he's not going to get the number 1 position. There's too much quality ahead of him. He's experienced. He's done it. A nice one to drop in. But do you want a player who can't make his mind up and is umming and ahhing, and probably to be honest, just waiting to see what comes in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's what have I got, and then if I can't, all right, I'll go to Boro.
But there comes a point with young keepers, you've got to blood them,
yeah,
and you've got to see what they're made of. But normally, when you do that, you've got somebody in reserve who can then come in if the pressure's too much. Yeah, and we haven't got that. So.
Well, that's it. I mean, looking at youngsters, if you want to look at keepers to come in, I look at the kid that was at Bolton last year, James Trafford. He's now at the under-21 championships with England.
Who we're linked with.
He had a cracking game against Germany the other night.
Yeah,
he had an unbelievable game.
Commanding keeper,
he's stepping up. You know, he was in League One last season. Obviously, made it to the playoffs with Bolton as well. That's a step up to the championship, and he's confident enough to. I honestly feel he plays the style of football. Obviously, being a Man City youngster, but I think Bolton play that way from the back as well that we do. I think he'd fit in really well. If you want to go youngster, I think that's one to really have a good look at.
Just a couple of points here. Phil Batch, 2 young keepers we had and lost due to making mistakes and fan pressure. You've nailed it. You've said it earlier. And Ian, our resident Darlow fan, says, can you imagine Darlow playing for Darlow?
I guess I think the thing is with this also is fans' expectancy. And if, let's say, for example, we were a relegation threatened team every year and we were just happy to stay up and we put a young keeper in goal and he had a half-decent season, no one will bat an eyelid. But because now we've got this expectancy, which is growing again.
We put an experienced keeper in last year and he dropped fatties.
Exactly.
And got better. And in the end, I was a fan at the
end.
I wasn't when he first came in and saw the fatties he was dropping.
You're right. So what's the difference between putting the kid in, apart from the fact that maybe you'd wreck his confidence quicker? But then I think again we're going.
That's the point. You could destroy him.
We could, but I think we're then going back to the point of what he's got around him and how he's dealt with, and how Michael Carrick could go. Look at De Gea when he first went to Man United. He was appalling, and yet they're stuck with him. He's stuck with him.
Yeah, and look how he ended. He was appalling.
Yeah, he was. He had a good season.
He went full. He went. Yeah. Jason Steele. Phil, thanks for that one, mate. Jason Steele is a name just thrown at us. Who's Jason Steele? Have we heard of him before?
Tell you what, right, honestly, he was in my dream team last year and he got me an assist and all. He was brilliant. I'd love to see him back at the Boro.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Brighton would let him go though, would they?
No, I don't think so, mate.
Even if he's number 2 again.
We could chew the cud all night, but I've got to get the tea in for the lad. So just before we finish, let's do a quick catch up. We've been running over the last few weeks. Intermittently, it has to be said, we do apologise. Boro's best ever. I think Rob's got a bit of a thing he can throw up. So where are we at the moment? So goalkeeper, Schwarzer, yes. Now you are a Stephen Pears fan.
I am.
And I'm a Jim Platt fan. I'm old. I'm ancient.
I'm old and I'm ancient too. Not as old and ancient as the next guy, but I mean, I don't know if that's going to go down. Well, it's going to go down the line. You probably aren't as old as ancient as me or this fellow here.
But Schwarzenegger, I mean, he won by a mile. He won by an absolute straight.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a top class keeper. We're talking about all the things that we were talking about there, commanding and shot stopping. And I mean, where did he go in the end? He ended up going to Man United when he was about 40. Didn't he end up somewhere like that? Or Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know,
he went Chelsea.
Absolutely.
Won the title.
Yeah.
Oh, good, yeah.
Yeah. Back 4 ended up being Parky, of course.
Obviously.
Pally, Southgate, and French Frank. What are your thoughts on the back 4?
I mean, Southgate speaks for himself. He's done one thing that no other captain at Boro's done ever. So he's done that.
We did lift the Anglo-Italian Cup once.
Nearly lifted the Zenith Data Systems Cup as well, didn't we? Gee, so close.
I mean, Gary Pallister. Probably one of the best products we've made come out of Teesside. look at the titles he won at Manchester United.
Still argue Woodgate in that point though there, but I might be slightly biased. But
was he great at the Borough?
no.
Great player.
But was Pallister great at the Borough? Was he great at Man United?
No, Pally was great at the Borough.
Again,
He
that's
started
another
like
show.
Bambi. He started like Bambi.
Yeah,
I remember him
yeah.
making his debut because I'm an old ancient type. But he grew into that position magnificently. Him and Mogger side by side were brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we've already had this argument, I suppose, haven't we? Which is why we're where we're at now. But yeah, again, you're right. Yeah, he was, which got him his move. He was immense, wasn't he? At the time when Man United was starting, we're building something to be a great team. I think he won the first time they won the league. It was with with him and Bruce
Steve
and whatever.
Bruce, yeah.
So I did agree with the time, but I just think that there's a few in there that we've got that we're still Woodgate, Eki Oggs, and but we've done.
And
that
the fullbacks, Parky and Kadru. Now I'm sure all the women voted for French Frank, but Parky, I mean, as a right back, is there anybody who could have replaced him? Could have? Nah. You're going to come up with something.
I'm not. I'm trying to rack my brains, but it's just pointless because you're right.
We're moving into midfield now this week, so we'll do a special. We'll do a quick special and we'll throw it up during the week coming of who the shortlisted players are for midfield. So
are we saying to people out there that thought to give an idea that we've gone 4-3-3?
4-3-3.
That helps.
We could have gone so many, but 4-3-3. That's what we're going for.
We had the Sabutio table out honestly, and we were overwhelmed with 5-4, 4-3-2, 2-9s or whatever. We had to quit in the end, but 4-3-3 is the. So if it's a forward midfielder, strike winger.
Yeah.
But then again, before getting into this, where would you class Giles? We're into that realm as he
Not been here long enough.
Midfielder. But I'm saying the where he plays, are we considering that as when we put a Reisiger in there?
Well, this is why we had to go 4-3-3 because in the end, if you went 4-4-2, 2 strikers, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, how can we choose?
Well, we can't because I've already picked 3 in my head now. I mean, how can you have Fabrizio Ravanelli, Paul Wilkinson, and Ian Bird not in that team? You can't, can you?
Don't forget Alfie Wood.
Yeah, no.
Brilliant stuff. One final comment, fellas. The kit's out.
Yes.
You like it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. I don't like the way they advertised it.
What, in my 98-year-old grandma's front room?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we were a doily away there from Beamish, weren't we? I don't. Who comes up with these things? I mean, honestly, that'd be good. I'll tell you what, we need a red velvet chair.
That's the chair that did it for me. He was 2 legs up from being in a psychiatric.
Absolutely.
So, but if you
But
look
you like
just
the kit?
yeah, the kit's lovely. I think it's.
Have we seen an away kit yet? Has an away kit been out?
No, not yet. Training kits. I like this training kit.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I won't be buying a first team shirt. I just don't like it.
Well, don't you?
No.
I don't mind it actually. Yeah, I think it's we're very red this year, aren't we?
Which is not bad for the Borough.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, there we go, fellas. Thank you for your time. It's been an
pleasure.
absolute pleasure. Jacko, thanks for getting on the couch for us, mate. And,
No problem.
we're looking to do some stuff on the radio, Teesside's radio station, Borough Fans radio station. So we'll have the 12th man back on. Hopefully we'll have you on as well, mate, doing your own stuff.
Yeah.
Foxy, I'm desperate to get you on, mate, but
do you know what? I would love to. This. There's no point in getting into this, is there? Because
no, not on air.
No, not at all. I'll just wait till I get my bollocking off air. But
We'll have a bun fight afterwards.
Well, I mean, I won't win that though. So yeah. No, listen. Always a pleasure. At the end of the day, we could sit here for at least another 14 hours.
Yeah, we could.
Without a flask.
Yeah. And I might as well give it a plug. Don't forget the Red. It's Borough Fans radio station. Teesside's latest radio station. We're bringing back the 3 legends. We're looking at doing lots of good stuff around the borough. We've got the likes of Duzza, who's coming on. Andy Campbell's coming on to do his own show. Higgy's involved, plus us guys. So the Red, that's where you want to be. Fellas, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure.
I'm going to go and feed the lad.
Nice.
We'll catch you next week. See you.